Good afternoon. My name is Tammy Ward, and I'm providing a short video for fire prevention for all of the business owners. I'd like to begin with the 3 E's of prevention, beginning with education. Fire is still a very real present danger. Now, 2 things that usually pop into our heads when we hear the word fire: either a campfire surrounded by friends and family, or an emergency that requires some kind of action. Fire in the workplace accounts for many fatalities in the United States. But as we continue to grow our knowledge through trainings in communication, social media, and seminars, all ways of educating the public, by giving systematic instructions and guidance about fire issues, we're teaching people how to be aware, how to prevent fires, and how to react in the event of a fire. As we continue to educate, we need to start enforcing what we are teaching. You would think that having fire laws in place, everyone would comply. Unfortunately, you only have to look at the news to see the scores of fines that are handed out each year to realize that enforcement is a much needed part of fire prevention. Some of the largest fire code breakers are building companies, property managers, and they should know better. These codes, fire and building, are not there to make life harder for people. They exist to simply protect everyone in the community. As such, they are not suggestions, but regulations that must be observed at all times. So just enforce the codes. Not just once the structures are built, but fire and life safety codes should be followed and always enforced. Now, it wasn't hard to see the lack of laws governing safe building designs was a major hazard. So engineers were tasked with the responsibility of coming to with a safe building design and establishing construction standards. The use of the best building practices to resist fire or prevent great loss from fires, this falls under the last E of fire prevention, engineering. Bottom line, we can give the knowledge and spread the word through education and be forceful in enforcing regulations, requirements, and standards. But all has to be made possible with the engineering behind the building materials and the design of structures to help our communities be prepared and understand the importance of fire prevention. Fire prevention for the home and workplace are topics that need to gain more media traction. Together as a team, we can make a difference. That is why we have code enforcing teams and associations that have been created to help. The National Fire Protection Association, also known as the NFPA, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, also OSHA, are here to help enforce codes. With these fire services, we can benefit from fire prevention. Fire prevention and code enforcement has a responsibility not only from our state fire marshals, legal support from the Attorney General offices, but the fire departments that are stationed within our local communities. There are many inspection resources to help with the questions and concerns for fire prevention in our local community to make sure our building and fire codes are followed. We can start by reaching out to OSHA and never, ever hesitate to have a conversation with your local fire marshal, fire department chief, labor, or health department. Now we're ready to build or add on to an existing building or structure. We ask ourselves, is our building going to be under the new or the existing building codes? Now, if you have an existing permitted occupied building that is proceeding with normal operations, meaning there's not construction activity occurring and you're not changing the use of occupancy of the building from the original design, meeting code, it's fairly simple. In this case, we're going to refer to the International Building Code. Now keep in mind that the code language does give the building code official the authority to require a change to the building if they so seem it necessary for any safety reasons. New buildings or structures with repairs, alterations, change of occupancy, relocation of the existing building, we want to refer to the International Existing Building Code. I want to also highlight that we do recognize the NFPA 101 in our area. And because this code applies to both new and existing buildings, you probably want to take a minute and look at the scope and see which specific codes your building will involve. I want to mention that today's types of building standards and requirements need to be in compliance with the NFPA 220 code. This document is going to define the types of construction, variations from your building elements. Of course, there are many variations that specify construction types, and you need to be aware of this with your materials to meet the minimum requirements of the NFPA. Now, once you understand the types of fire resistance of your building material requirements, understanding the tests and fire ratings is just as important. It is necessary to consider the influence of your location, your occupancy, exterior exposure, physical damage to fire-resistant materials, and other features that impose additional requirements for safeguarding life and property. Refer to the NFPA 221, NFPA 80, and NFPA 90A. You can also contact a UL certified lab. One we have local here in Montana is called CAMP. It's at the Montana Tech in Butte. I'd like to emphasize on how important it is to understand that certain tests that are done with material and the fire ratings from these tests are a huge consideration when inspections are being administered. Knowing what your flame spread index is for your material, is it subject to increase in combustibility or flame spread beyond its limits, the age, the moisture, the other atmospheric conditions, they all need to be considered. Your walls, beams, trusses, ceilings, possible exposed columns, exit enclosures, all play a huge part in the inspections due to appropriate locations and the specifics based on fire ratings. The best thing is always fire prevention. But if you remember these tips, you'll make the workplace that much safer. Reach out to your local fire teams, the NFPA, OSHA, for more on all the regulations and compliance within our building codes. Now I hope that you have gained an intro to safety, into safety training, fire prevention, and code enforcement, all those skills today throughout this video. Thank you.